My guest for tonight is Amanda Fulton, Director of the Kennedy Political Union. Unlike many student government positions, the KPU Director has the great privilege of scheduling, welcoming, and introducing high-profile guests that speak here at AU. Such guests have included Madeleine Albright, Jimmy Carter, David Gregory and Helen Thomas, Valerie Plame Wilson, and Elizabeth Edwards, just to name a few. Joining us to talk about the exciting life on the inside of these events is Amanda Fulton. Thanks for joining us.
Oh, thank you for having me.
I appreciate it. How long have you been KPU Director?
I've been KPU Director since the end of April of last year. I was nominated and confirmed at the end of last school year, and I've done it this whole school year and this past summer.
Do you enjoy it?
Oh yeah, it's a ton of fun. It's great.
Now, I schedule guests too. I mean, we have a show, you got to get people on to talk about, things that are of interest. What does the process look like for scheduling a guest to come and speak at AU?
Well, there's a couple different ways we do it, depending on if it's a sitting government official or not. If it's a sitting government official, we'll go straight through their offices, their schedulers. That's usually the best way to do it. If it's someone who's like an activist or a former government official, what we'll do is we'll usually work through a speakers bureau, and we have representatives that we work with, and they're able to, figure out their schedules and that sort of thing.
So these speakers bureaus, do they have like groups of speakers on a certain, organized by topic or by expertise, or?
Yeah, it depends on the bureau. Usually each bureau has exclusive speakers, which means that they're the only bureau that hosts them. And then there's a variety of speakers that are represented by pretty much anyone and everyone. And they send out booklets where they're organized, usually like by politics, international media, that sort of thing. So that's usually the best way to figure out the different types of people.
Did you have any prior experience in high school arranging for speakers that you thought, oh, you put that to use here? I mean, is it comparable at all?
Not really. I guess when I was in high school, I was vice president of our poetry club, and I booked a local poet to come speak. That, I guess, was maybe my first experience with booking. But I also worked on the KPU staff my freshman and sophomore year, so I was familiar with what was going on in the office.
So if I want a speaker to come to AU, I'm really passionate about this guy or gal, and I want him or her to come, how do I get in touch with you to try and make that happen?
Sure, there's a variety of ways. You can always email me at kpu@ausg.org. We have a Facebook group at Kennedy Political Union, and people usually use the wall as a way of leaving suggestions, and I always am happy to check on them. Or you can just give the office a call. The number is 202-885-6416. So any way that works for you, I'm available. I always try to make myself pretty accessible.
Now, we're going to have all that information on the website, year-to-date-show@wordpress.com, so you can look it all up there and don't have to scramble to write it down now or remember it. If you have any suggestions for the KPU, you can do that there. So is it hard, like the night before a big speaker comes? Are you stressed out? Is there a lot of last-minute details? What's the hard part of the job?
Yeah, I would say it is the last couple days where things get the most pressing, just because once you have them booked, there's kind of like a little lull where it's like too early to start publicizing and working through logistics, but you kind of have to keep it on your radar screen. But once you get in probably that final week, it gets to where you have to do the catering contract, you have to do all the follow-up with like University Center and AV and all that sort of thing, and then the little details down to like where are the chairs going to be placed, and forgetting bottled water, which I always do. I always forget to get bottled water for the speakers, and even things like will volunteers show up? When is the staff available to come? Right. When is the speaker coming? So it is those last minute details where everything has to go perfectly, where it's the most stressful.
Now you get help from volunteers and people who volunteer for the KPU. How does the volunteer structure work when the KPU springs into action?
Sure. Well, we have a listserv, so what we'll do is send out an email about 2 weeks in advance, just kind of letting the volunteers know we have an event coming up, we're looking for help, and people can basically just respond to us and let us know if they're available, and we'll email them back with things to do. Typically the volunteers will do a lot of the pre-event publicity, like with the postering or word of mouth, and then at the event they'll do things like taking tickets to the door, VIP seating, the VIP reception, basically anything that we need an extra set of hands for.
Oh, nice. So if I want to become a volunteer for the KPU, do I just contact you, or how do I do that?
If you want to just email me, kpu@ausg.org, I will make sure you get added to the list right away.
Oh, awesome, awesome. How do you know which speakers the student body would be interested in having? Is it some formula, like X number of students, like this type of speaker? And I mean, because we're not all into politics, so how do you decide? It
is really hard. I guess what I try to do is try to get people that I think represent a wide variety of interests. Helen Thomas and David Gregory, for example, like I thought the SOC crowd would have kind of appealed to them, but also they're the White House correspondents, so it'll appeal to the SPA students as well. So I try to get people that kind of cross borders. And I also try to, if I brought one speaker that's particularly political, I'll try to make sure the next one is a little bit more media or international oriented. I also do a lot of co-sponsoring, which is a great way to make sure all groups are represented, because when they come to me with who they're interested in, I know I've got that core group of supporters.
You opened for Obama, which has got to be an incredible experience. Can you tell us a little bit behind the scenes of what it was like opening for Obama when he came?
It was really the most exhilarating thing I've ever done. I was so nervous beforehand, but once I got up there, I just felt the energy of the crowd, and I just got really into it, especially at the end. But I had the great privilege of meeting with him ahead of time, and I have to say, he won me over because he just was so kind and unassuming, and I was so excited. He walked in and he was like, "You're from that Kennedy group, aren't you?" And I was like, "Yes, I am." It was so exciting. And then Ted Kennedy comes over and he goes, "Kennedy, I like that." And so they were both just so down to earth and so cool. It made me feel really at ease.
So you're a junior, which means you have one more year. I'm a junior too. So we've got one more year here at school. Do you think you'll try for the Kennedy Political Union, directorship again?
I don't think so. I think what makes KPU special is that each director kind of brings their own little personal bit to the whole thing. So I'd like to see another person be able to take a stab at it.
Well, excellent. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it. Thanks for spending the evening with us.
For the next 3 weeks, I'm afraid I won't be able to join you here on Year to Date during campaign season.
Filling in for Jason will be Rachel Monin.
I'm sure she'll do a great job.
I think so too. Do you want to get involved in Year to Date?
If you want to join our team, please email us at yeartodate@auatv.com.
And that's our show. We'd like to thank our guests, Liz Gok, John Goodman, Joe Vitalich, and Amanda Fulton.
We'd also like to thank our wonderful crew, Molly Swade, Laura Gibson, Christina Bartol, Sarah Geminer, and Josh Rothman, and Rachel Monin.
Well, that's all the time we have this week.
We'll be sure to tune in next Sunday at 9:30 for another episode of Year to Date right here on ATV.
Good night and thanks for watching.
Good night.